Welcome to the Back to Basics seminar. So my name is Lupe Rosales, and I am a realtor, and I am a member of the Spartanburg Association of Realtors. And today we have partnered up with local nonprofit organizations that have brought the tools for you necessary to become a successful homeowner. So we will have Dominique Dawkins with the County of Spartanburg Fair Housing. She's going to be speaking on fair housing. And then we have Barbara Rutledge with the Pt.1 Community Action, and she will be talking about budgeting. And then we'll take a short break. And then we will be doing Understanding Credit with Anita Beasley and Cedric Herbert with Regenesis. And then you'll have the opportunity to meet with one-on-one with the organizations, so you can they can provide some specific information about the programs that they have. And after that, please fill out the evaluation forms. That will help us better serve you in the future. We'll ask questions to see how we did and how we can help you better. Okay, so right now we'll be, I present to you Dominique Dawkins.
Good morning, everyone. I'm gonna say it again. Good morning, everyone. I know it's early. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Lupe, for the introduction. Again, my name is Dominique Dawkins. I'm a Community Services Specialist with Spartanburg County Community Development. Today, I just will be giving a brief overview of the Fair Housing Act and some of your rights under that federal legislation. So let's kind of get into the Fair Housing Act. So how many of you all are familiar with the Civil Rights Act of 1964? Everybody's hand should go up. Okay, all right. So just a little background. The Civil Rights Act effectively ended segregation, where it made it illegal to discriminate based off of race, color, national origin, as well as religion in public places such as schools, public facilities, thereby creating integration and making employment discrimination illegal. So Title 8 of that act, of the 1964 Act, is known as the Fair Housing Act. And so that was signed again by President Lyndon B. Johnson in 1968, so 4 years after the initial landmark Civil Rights Act was signed in 1964. So what does the act itself do? It protects people against discrimination when they're renting or buying a home, getting a mortgage, seeking housing assistance, or engaging in other housing-related activities. So that discrimination also includes steering someone away to a particular type of housing or neighborhood, as well as refusing to rent to someone. So let's say this young lady here is looking to buy a home, and everything across the board looks great. She goes to a real estate agent. She wants to buy a home on the east side of Spartanburg. The real estate agent steers her away and tells her, well, let's look at a different neighborhood that you would have a claim to file to HUD or to call to our Fair Housing Hotline because your rights had been, you had been discriminated against. So who does the act protect? There are seven classes that are protected under the Fair Housing Act. Those seven classes are, you can't discriminate based off of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, including gender identity and sexual orientation, familiar status, which includes families with children, as well as pregnant women, and disability. So there are some historically other underserved groups that may be covered under FHA, which is an acronym that we use for the Fair Housing Act, that are protected under the FHA based on the historical association with these seven groups. Okay, and those protected classes, those protected groups include LGBTQIA individuals, persons with limited English proficiency, so folks who speak a different language, as well as survivors of domestic violence. So where does the act apply? The Fair Housing Act applies to the sale, rental, and financing of residential housing. So examples of that would be houses, apartments, nursing homes, student housing, homeless shelters. Those all are categorized as residential housing or dwellings, which is in the formal language in the legislation is dwellings. Those are all categorized under the Fair Housing Act as residential housing. So I want you to remember this key takeaway that I want you to remember is outside of who is protected in terms of the protected classes, landlords, bankers, developers, insurers, real estate agents, builders, appraisers, and we'll get into that a little bit, individual homeowners themselves, they are all subjected under the Fair Housing Act. So what's not categorized under the Fair Housing Act under residential housing would be motels, jails, and bed and breakfasts. Those are not categorized as residential housing under the Fair Housing Act. So why do we think that this legislation is important? I want to ask you all, why do you all think that the Fair Housing Act is important? Why are these rights important to you? Any takers? Yes.
So I feel like it's important, and correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm gonna tell you like my situation. Basically, I'm renting a home now, and I haven't missed a payment, but the owners have sold their home. So I'm thinking that this falls under the Fair Housing Act, and so they're telling me I have to get out. It's not in the lease stating that if they sell their home, that I have to move. So would that fall under
Okay,
the
so I want you
Fair
to
Housing Act?
repeat that again for me.
So I have a lease.
Mm-hmm.
I started my lease March the 25th. The owners sold their home. So they want me to just leave. But my lease doesn't end until next year, March. So basically, in my lease, it doesn't state if they sell their house, I have to leave. So
That's in your lease.
it's not.
It's not in your lease. When did they sell their home?
April, they started telling me I needed to find somewhere to go.
Okay.
So I'm thinking that falls under, I'm hoping, the Fair Housing Act.
So I'm gonna talk to you afterwards because technically it sounds like that they broke your contract. If your contract is up for a year, it sounds like it's a year contract.
It is.
Yeah. That doesn't sound like it's under the Fair Housing Act, but that might be something else that we can talk about. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other folks want to know why they think that the Fair Housing Act is important? Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Just thinking about the whole purpose of the Civil Rights Act, or why it was signed into law, is to basically give people their basic foundational rights as human beings, and humanity, human dignity, and respect.
Yeah. So absolutely. So the fair housing practices help people understand what it means to be in a welcoming and vibrant neighborhood, right? The ideas, connections, our sense of pride that are found in our neighborhoods that are diverse and open make a real difference in midst of tough economic times like right now. Yes.
I'm in a situation, I used to stay in this apartment, a nice apartment. I stayed there about a couple of years, but I got sick,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't walk, I got hurt in the store, so I couldn't walk, my daughter would come and get me. In the meantime, this lady, she put something on my record, I didn't owe no money, but whatever she put on my record, it keeps popping up and keeps stopping me from getting a decent place to live. And then she won't answer my daughter, she won't answer a text or nothing. She won't tell her what it is. Whatever she put on there, I can't, and then I put it in her apartment, and later already told me, I had an apartment, until that popped up. When that popped up, she was like,
so,
And I think
that's,
that's right.
yeah, that sounds like, it could possibly fall under disability, because it sounds like you disabled, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, so, I'm gonna give you some more information at the end of the presentation, hoping that you can, reach out to our local hotline team. That way that we can kind of investigate that a little bit further. So the other reason why we know that the Fair Housing Act is important is because, equal access to housing goes hand in hand with quality of life. We all want to, we love our communities, we have pride. For many of us, we have pride in our communities, so fair housing plants those seeds for economic development, talent retention, right? We want to keep people here, we want to keep people within our community, and it does more. When people feel welcomed, when they make themselves at home, they're more inclined to invest back into their community. They're more inclined to reinvest their resources back into the community to make it more appealing for diverse and talented people to come. So, essentially, fair housing is almost a bottom line, along the lines of when it comes to economic development, quality of life. These all fall under the same, I guess you could say, categories of wanting to make our communities vibrant and keeping especially our young people, here. So let's kind of get into some examples. This is John. John, as you can see, he is a black man and he speaks to, the example is he speaks to a prospective landlord on the phone about leasing an apartment. On the phone, the landlord seems eager to want to rent to him, but when he meets the landlord and to fill out an application, the landlord's attitude completely changes. And John can sense that and he can feel that. A few days later, after he fills out the application, John receives a letter stating that his application was denied because of a negative reference from his current landlord. Now, John's surprised because his landlord, he's never had problems with his landlord, and landlord swears that she never received or never was contacted for a reference. John thinks that John thinks that his rights have been violated and that he has a claim to HUD. Do you all think that he has had his rights violated? Yeah. So essentially, what John could do is, and again, at the end of the slide, there's some contact information I have for you. John reaches out to HUD, explains the situation. They get in contact with him. They review his case. He does have a file to claim against the landlord.
This four-bedroom home lives in Marine, north of San Francisco, offers lots of light.
I'm going to pause that just so I can turn the volume up for you. Is that on?
This four-bedroom home built in Marin, north of San Francisco, offers lots of light, water views, a school right down the hill.
So the house used to end right
You
here.
all hear it?
Owners Paul Austin and Tanisha T. Austin knew it was worth at least $1.3 million based on a 2019 appraisal. But looking to borrow as the housing market heated up, Paul met a new appraiser and showed her around.
And what was the number of, you open up that piece of paper, and what does it say?
Oh, $998,000. So
Less than $1 million.
less than $1 million.
Which means almost $400,000 less than
Yes.
the appraisal you got a year earlier.
Yes,
And so they applied for a new appraisal, but this time,
I'm gonna guarantee that I'm gonna get the appraisal that my house is supposed to get.
And in the United States, what is your best guarantee of getting the best rate possible?
Being white.
And white.
so they worked to erase themselves from their own home.
All of our art, took that away, pictures of our family, anything that, would resemble that this home belongs to a black family. Just grabbed it all, put it all in a shed, put it all away.
And they asked a white friend to stand in when the new appraiser arrived.
So this time you open the paper and it says what?
1.482.
Yes. $500,000 difference.
Imagine what that money can do for a family. That's seed money for a business. That's a second home you could rent out. That's college tuition. Now, imagine this whole community misses out on those opportunities. It shows that this is a far larger problem than this one address.
Carla Duffy, a homeowner in Indianapolis, told NBC's Priscilla Thompson about using a similar tactic.
I mean, I went to my girlfriends. Both are married to white men. And I was like, okay, I need to borrow one of y'all husbands.
Her appraisal came back at double the value. A survey of studies of racial disparities in the U.S. mortgage market found that discrimination inhibits upward social mobility of minorities and exacerbates large racial disparities in wealth because home equity is crucial for building wealth. In fact, this community, known as Marin City, was held back for decades. When Paul's family moved here from the South to work in the shipyards, redlining meant it was the only place in the area where African Americans were allowed to buy a home, while white residents could buy and sell anywhere. Today, Marin City's median income is less than $30,000 a year. Neighboring Mill Valley, a mile away, is nearly 3 times that.
In theory, this home should have been your family's escape from that history.
Yes. Like, we shouldn't had to repeat what my grandparents had to go through, 50 plus years ago. It's frustrating because we're not as far along in America as we think we are.
The original appraiser did not respond to our request for comment. By the time the Austins got the new appraisal, interest rates and terms meant they couldn't borrow the money they wanted, and they're now suing.
Just the process of appraising is a system that creates inequity in our country.
How do we change the system? Will our story be a catalyst to changing, the system that's negatively affecting black and brown people every day?
Tom, Paul and Tanisha say that their lawsuit is about the money lost as they were waiting for a second appraisal, but they also say it's about reforming a system that puts the dream of intergenerational wealth into the hands of a possibly biased person. Tom?
So true.
Okay, so I want you to ponder on that, and we've got one other, if I can pull it up. Well, the last video, unfortunately, you're hearing a lot more stories of black families, brown families, who are either trying to buy a second home, trying to rent, and they go through this appraisal process, and unfortunately, are discriminated against, whereas you just saw that family in that video, receiving their initial appraisal was $500,000 less, $500,000 less than what their house is actually worth. And so we continue to see instances like this. And so our biggest takeaway for you today is we want you to know that these are your rights, that if you are trying to buy a home, maybe you're already a homeowner and you're looking to sell your home, that there's federal laws in place to make sure that you are protected as someone trying to either buy your home or also to rent to someone. And sometimes, and I will say, sometimes discrimination can be subtle. It may not be in your face, right? But if you feel that your rights have been violated, we highly encourage you to either call our local office. We do have a local fair housing hotline that you can call. We will talk with you. We will do an investigation. We will kind of get to how you feel that your rights have been violated, and see if you actually have a case. And if you can't reach us, we do encourage you to reach the South Carolina Human Affairs Commission, and we've got the website here. You can give that number a call or send them an email address, or if you're more inclined to use snail mail, you can also send your information through the mail. But I hope this was informative for you, and we just want you to know that we care, and that as future homeowners, that again, that there's legislation in place to make sure that your rights are protected. And so if you have any questions, I will be in the back, as well as at our Spartanburg County Community Development table in the foyer area. And so I thank you for your time.
Good morning. Good morning. Great. Is this thing on? Okay. I am Barbara Rutledge. I'm with Pt.1 Community Actions, and today I'm here to discuss with you budgeting, one of my favorite subjects. Now, most of the time people think of budgeting as being restrictive. That, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, I'm on a budget. I beg to differ. A budget can allow you to do some of the things that you want to do. You know that first you have to take care of those needs, those needs, the things that you have to have to live, and then you take care of the wants with the surplus, if there's any. Okay. My topics today is what is a budget? Why do we budget? When do we budget? And how to do a budget. Does anybody know what a budget is? Do you have an idea? A budget may mean different things to different people. Anybody have an idea? What's a budget? What does it mean to you to budget?
Exactly how much you can pay out,
Say that again?
how much you can pay out, and how much you can't. How much you can spend and what you can't spend.
How much you can spend, how much you can't spend? Good answer. Let me tell you how I relate a budget. That's a very good answer. I relate a budget to GPS. Anybody got a GPS? What does the GPS do? I can't see it. A GPS does what? It kind of plans your trip, right? It tells you where you're going to start, where you're going to end up, and how you're going to get there, right? I think of a budget in the same way. It pretty much tells me how much money I have, how much I'm spending, and what's going to happen at the end. Am I going to have enough? Am I going to have a surplus or a deficit? So let's relate a budget to that GPS.
Can you repeat what you just said again? You compare the GPS to a budget to tell you where you're gonna start.
Yes, a GPS tells you where you're going to start, where you're going to end up, and how to get there. So a budget pretty much tells you how much money you have, what you're spending it on, and what you're gonna have at the end. Are you gonna have a surplus or a deficit? That's what you're waiting on.
Basically, map to a goal. We'll have to format to a goal.
Okay. So instead of planning a trip, you're planning your spending. Basically, that's what a budget is. Sometimes the GPS will do what? When you go the wrong way, it'll reroute you, right? Yeah, rerouting. Well, with the budget, sometimes we don't do what we need to do, or we overspend. So we have to make adjustments, right? Pretty much like the GPS. We're making adjustments, we're rerouting. Why should we budget? It gives us a sense of self-control. Instead of someone else controlling our money, we control our money. We control what we do with it, how much we spend on each item, expenses, and what we can have left over. Now, a GPS tells us how many miles we have to go, when to make a turn, right? Well, a budget pretty much the same. It tells us where we are with that money. When is a good time to start a budget?
When you're young,
Right away. Start budget right now. Let's compare that with a GPS. Do you wait till you get out on the road and then decide to put it on the GPS? You should put that GPS on as soon as before you leave the house, right? So you know where you're going before you get there. And you don't want to be out on the highway and decide, oh, let me put my GPS on, and you figure it in the car and you're running off the road. Sure, that can happen. So you want to start that GPS before you leave the house. You want to start that budget before payday. Why? If you're like me on payday, you figure, oh, today's payday, I got this much money today. And immediately you want to go spend something. Am I right about it? You want to go spend something. I got money today. And then the bills come. And you have spent too much money. And you don't have enough money to pay the bills. So, start your budget today. Before that paycheck comes, you already know what you're going to do with it. Because you started your budget, you set aside this amount for this, this, and this, and this. And if there's something left over, of course, you have your surplus and you can get some of those things that you want. But take care of those needs first. What is, we talked about what, why, and when, and we're going to talk about how to do a budget later. But right now, let's talk about motivations. What is motivating you to start a budget? Why are you here? You want to talk about budget? You want to do a budget, right? You want to negotiate a budget. So what's motivating you? You have some kind of need, some kind of want, some kind of obligation. We probably have all three of those, right? Can anybody tell me what's something that you need? Family. So it's motivating you to get on a budget. We want to be able to take care of our families, right? Okay.
Get out of bed.
Get out of debt. That's an obligation. Your debt is your obligation. And if you want to get out of debt, put yourself on a budget so that you can see where you're going to go, how you're going to get there. Just like that GPS. How am I going to get out of debt? Through my budget. You have anything that you want? Now we're going to take care of our needs first and our obligations too. But we all have things that we want, right? What are, let's talk about how we discern the difference between our needs and our wants.
rent, lights, and water.
She's right. Our needs are rent, lights, water. Those are the things that we need to live. Yeah, we need those things to live. What are our wants? Purses and shoes. Thank you. Purses and shoes, ladies. Purses and shoes. These are the things that we desire, but we can live without them. How about cell phones? Cell phones, and when I say cell phones, you know, today, most of us we need a phone. We have to be able to communicate with each other, right? Do we need the latest iPhone? No. So if you look at a cell phone, it could be a need, yes, but the latest iPhone is a want. It's not necessarily something that you need. So you gotta discern whether it's a want or a need. The latest iPhone is rent, the same amount, right? You gotta take care of that rent first. How about the iWatch? Anybody have an iWatch? Okay. Okay, I've heard of it, I don't even know how that operates, but it's a want. It's a want. It's not something that you have to have. It's nice to have, but it's a want. What about, okay, my favorite subject, shoes. Yeah. You gotta have shoes to walk, to keep your feet clean and all of that. But ladies, do we need 50 pairs of shoes? Do we? Now, I can't talk too much because I love shoes. That's my thing, I love shoes, okay, but we don't need 50 pairs of shoes. It's a want. Handbags. What's that new handbag? The very expensive one, Brahim, Michael Kors, Brahim, and all of those. Brahmin? See, I don't even know the name of it. But it's not necessary. I keep using my eyes. That new handbag is not a necessity. That's just something that we want. So sure, we need a handbag to keep our money in and our IDs and all of that, but that's a need. But that excessive, expensive handbag is a want. It's not something that we have to have. So keep in mind those things when you're doing your budget. Is it a want? Is it a need? Then there's those obligations. Your debts. That's something that you run up a credit card. Now you got to pay. So that's an obligation, and you want to put that in your budget. You don't want to just dismiss it because you charged it. You got to pay for it. Okay, so in your budget, you need to know the difference between the needs, the wants, and the obligations. What about, we're going to talk about these needs and obligations. What about a car? Do you need a car? Yes. We need to get to work. We need to get to the grocery store. We need to get to those places that we need to get to. But do we need an expensive car? No, we do not. Please give me a minute to tell you this story about my son-in-law, who had a nice car. And I don't remember the kind it was, but it was a nice car. It drove him to work every day. It carried the kids. It did everything. And he went to a car dealership one day and bought a BMW. He didn't need a BMW. He just wanted one. Got home and told his wife, this is my daughter, I just did something stupid. Yes, you did. Why do we do things like that? Because we have to put ourselves on a budget to say, this is how much we need to spend. So we went out there and bought this new car, this new BMW that he did not need, and got himself in trouble. We need a house to live in. Do we need a big old 7-bathroom, 20-bedroom house that some of the celebrities have? Now, they got the money and they can do that, but some of us decide we want to keep up with the Joneses, so we're going to get this big old house. And it's two of us because we're empty nest right now. And the kids are gone, and we got this big old house and we're crazy. We can't even see each other sometimes because he's upstairs or downstairs. It's crazy. Yes, we need a house, but we don't need the big, expensive house. We don't need people with the jobs. Let me go to income. Understanding your income is the first step to using it to meet your needs. Now, there are different kinds of needs. Most of us work. Everybody, who works? Are we working? Everybody? We working for our jobs? Okay. Most of us are working, we get our wages. Then there are those who, waitresses and different jobs. We're getting tips. That's a source of income. You gotta remember what, everything that is income. Contract workers, whatever they're getting, that's their income. They're self-employed. I know anybody's self-employed. No self-employed? No? It's not changing. It's changing here. It's not changing there. I don't know why not. I'll try these things. It's not working. Sorry. Did it change? No? Technical difficulty, sorry. How about that? Still no? You wanna do this? Sorry, guys. Yes, you do. Oh, okay. You're not gonna be able to see what I'm talking about, unfortunately. I can't see what I'm talking about. I can't. I'm serious. Okay. So we're on to income, different types of income. And then we do have people self-employed, and that's their income, and my eye keeps blowing out. Maybe I'll do that. Okay, Social Security disability, that's your income. Then we have SSI, supplemental Social Security income. Child support. No, I'm not gonna ask you that. But that is your source of income. If you're using that income to help support your household, that's income. Alimony. I'm not gonna ask you that either. I don't know anybody that's getting alimony, but celebrities maybe. And that's the source of income as well. You need to understand your expenses. You've got income altogether, you know the things you're going to list as income, all those things we just talked about. And then, let's understand your expenses. It will help you decide how to spend, how to save. I still can't see. Think of your expenses in 3 different ways. We talked about needs. Those are things that what you need to live. Those are your needs. We talked about wants, things that you desire but you can live without, and obligations, which are your debts. With your needs, are there ways that you can not decrease your needs, but decrease the amount of money that we're spending on your needs? Say, for instance, we talked about a house. If if you have this great big house and things are gone now, and of course it costs more to heat, cool, and run a bigger house. So as you get older and there's an empty nest, you can downsize to a smaller house, cut down on some of those expenses.
I laugh because I just built my house and it's just me and it's a 4-bedroom.
Just you in a 4-bedroom.
And that's what I'm like. She was looking at me and I said,
You just bought it?
just bought. And my children are grown, so that's why I'm looking like, oh my goodness. Talk about her.
I'm not pointing any fingers.
I want me to keep it on.
Right. So, yeah, if family starts to move in with you and share some of the expenses, then hey, there you go. There you go. I know it's difficult to live with other people. It's difficult to live with your spouse sometimes. But that's true. I mean, it's true. But yeah, that is a way to cut down the expenses if you can do that. Having a room.
It's cheaper to get a big house than it is to get a small one.
Okay.
It is these days of time.
Oh, if that's possible, then do whatever is less expensive. If that's the case, do whatever. You gotta determine what's less expensive for you. I can't tell you what's less expensive for you. Okay. Some of your wants, the things that you can live without, can you use less money for those? Some of the things that we're about, like, we talked about what shoes, purses, and clothes, and all of those things. There are ways that we can cut down on the expense that we spend for those things. And I've talked in one class about places to buy less expensive clothes. Got any ideas? Goodwill?
Consignment shop.
That's consignment shops. Yard sales. We don't have to go to the mall to spend high dollars on clothing and shoes and whatever. Consignment shops and Goodwill. Best piece of clothing I ever bought in my life was a red blazer that I wear at Christmas time. I got it at Goodwill for $4.75. I Googled this blazer. It sells for $79.99. And I got it for $4.75. And it's the best piece of clothing I've ever bought because I love it. I wear it at Christmas time. Like I said, it's red blazer. And if it was Christmas, I'd have it on right. Love it.
On Sundays, they have 50-cent days.
Yes, they do.
Every Sunday.
Nobody needs any clothing. But here's the way that we share information so that we know how to save our money, right?
And during the week, they have colors of the week. Like if it's a green one tag, it's $1.
So you have to look for the color of the tag. You look for the color of the tag.
Tag like if it's green, it's $1 for that day.
Okay. Tracking your expenses. By tracking your expenses, you can see if you're using your money in accordance with your goals. Tracking your expenses may also uncover where you can make changes. When you track your expenses, you tend to spend less. Now, I bank with I shouldn't say Bank of America. Some people go, oh, what? They did this with my money. But I worked for Bank of America for 23 years, so I bank with them. And they have this kind of like a tracker. It's like a pie on a chart. And it tracks where I'm spending my money. It does it for me. And it'll tell me, you spent this amount in dining out this month. You spent this amount of whatever. And it pretty much tells me where I'm spending my money and how much I'm spending and where I'm going over. Oh, you set your goals in the beginning. And it tells me if I'm going over my goals. Very good tracker to have to keep track of what you're doing. I do have, you got comments over there?
You had that down on your phone, on Messenger. it on your phone on the message where it turn around and it show you at the end of the month,
Mhm.
all the places you have traveled, you done been to,
Yeah. Good. What kind of phone do you have?
a regular Android.
An Android.
Yeah,
I had
so-
Android that used to do that. I have an iPhone now. I didn't buy it, somebody gave it to me. I'm serious, and I don't have my bag up here, but I do have that. What is it, ramen bag, whatever. But I have a tiny one, and I didn't buy that either. It was a gift. It was a gift of Mother's Day. So I don't buy those expensive things, but if you want to give me a gift that's expensive like that, I'll take it. Okay.
They are durable bags.
They are they're guaranteed lifetime.
I've had this since I was 25.
Since
It's my
it's a
favorite.
problem. Yeah, see, that's the bigger one.
Slam over.
Mine is about half that size. That's that expensive bag. So you can see what it looks like.
What is that, Greg?
Ramen, is that right? Ramen? Yeah, that's that expensive bag right now. Michael Kors was in it one time, and now they've gone to the ramen, and a couple years they're gonna have something else for your money, if you wanna go that route. They would. But that bag does last a lifetime, it's guaranteed. So in a way, unless if you're buying bags every 5 or 6 years, you get one that's gonna last a lifetime, and you wanna carry the same one for a lifetime, then you save money, kinda, right?
I'd rather have
That's
a
why I'm
$12,
like,
$20 purse with $100 in it than a $300 purse with $2.
Thank you. And is my boss in here? Oh, yes, she is. Yeah, I talked about that bag, and I told you that I wouldn't buy that ramen bag because the one that I was looking at, I did look, I didn't buy it. It was like $325, and I thought I wouldn't have $325 in it. So I didn't get it. But like I said, it was a gift at Mother's Day, a small one. Okay. Okay, we've talked about understanding income, there's different kinds of income. We talked about understanding expenses, what kind of expenses that we have, our needs, our wants, our obligations. And I want to leave you with the first step in using, understanding your income is, no. Understanding your income is the first step in using it to meet your goals and your needs. And understanding your expenses will help you to decide how to spend and how to save your income. Okay. We did, where is Anita? Okay, you wanna pass that out? We have it should be up here, but unfortunately we have technical difficulties. But we have a spending plan that Anita's going to pass out to you. And it is a picture of someone's income and their expenses. And I want you to take a look at it, and we're going to decide, based on their income and their expenses, what do we need to do? Because remember we talked about the GPS that reroutes you? Well, when you're using your budget, you want to make adjustments when you need to. So what she's passing out right now, if you look at that income side, it has wages $3,500, that's what this person is making on their job, and then they're getting child support of $250. Right? Everybody got a sheet now? Anybody does not have a sheet? $3,750. And this person has expenses. Let's start with rent or mortgage, whatever it is. $1,100. Is anybody paying more than that for rent? Really? I've seen that too. I've seen that. Is there something we can do about that? No? Rent keeps going up, doesn't it?
Amen.
Rent keeps going up. Mortgages,
That's high too.
oh, that's high too, because houses are going up. But once you buy that house, your mortgage stays probably even, except when the taxes go up, insurance goes up. But it stays kind of level, more level, I would think, than rent. Because, well, you do say sometimes it's better to buy a house than to rent, because the landlords can go up as much as they want to when they want to. So, yeah, you may be able to do something about that, and maybe in your case, maybe not. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So the wages, the 3,500, is that gross or net?
This is what you have to go on your net. As you know, yeah, we just kind of picked a figure. This is maybe or maybe not be realistic, but this is what we're going on. So when you're doing your budget, you want to start with your net, because you know taxes are coming out, so you can't depend on the gross amount. You gotta use your net.
Of course. So my question is, like, when you apply for loans or anything of that nature where they're gonna look at your income, why do they go by your gross?
There's that question all the time. Because it has to be fair across the board. Now, let me tell you what that means to me. Say, for instance, we both, we work at the same job, we make the same amount. $3,500, okay? But I have gone out and charged up on a credit card. Did I miss something? I can't see. Okay, so I go out and I charge up $15,000 on a credit card, just buying stuff. Went and got 3 or 4 of those bags. And, yeah, and bought all shoes. I love shoes. So I just went online and just, oh, I want that pair and that pair and that. And I got all these shoes. And then, little John wanted some new sneakers. I don't know. It used to be the Jordans. I bought him 2 or 3 pair. Okay, you and I are making the same amount of money, but you paid your rent, you paid your car note, and you didn't charge up all of those credit cards. You didn't do that. But when the loan company is looking at both of us, both of these people have this amount of money, and if I did something crazy, that's on me. So they're looking at, you both got the same kind of money, you both have the same gross amount of money. That's just the way they look at it. I don't know any way to answer that. It's just that one person doesn't do the right thing and one person does. So they go like this.
They look at your credit and your credit score. They will turn around and keep you regardless of how much income.
Right. It is just, I have no control over that. Yeah, we get that question a lot in our agency. We get that question a lot. Okay. So anyway, there's an electricity bill. You can negotiate with Duke to get on a payment plan. That's one thing you can do. And the gas bill is probably going to be what it is. I don't know that you can do a lot about that, as well as the water bill. Except if your water bill is very high, you can call the water company and say, come and check my meter. Because you may have a leak or something like that. So you can check that out. You have a question? All right. Cell phone bill, $285. Can we do something about that?
Yeah.
Okay, we need to do something about it. Yes, because what we're looking at is the income is $3,750 and our expenses are $4,370. So we're short 620. That means somewhere on these expenses, we got to make some adjustments. We've got to reroute. So cell phone bill is the one that I look at first.
Cable bill,
Cable bill,
internet,
thank you.
car insurance.
Car insurance, shop around for car insurance.
Car insurance based on the credit score.
But I would shop around too, because I did. I got a better rate. Shop around. Car insurance, groceries are going up, I don't know. You gotta eat. Now, the dining out is different.
Yeah,
You
but
can
when
cut
you come
that.
out of the grocery, you turn around and make a list
That's right.
of all your meats and then your vegetables and everything. And when you go to the store, you turn around and get that hamburger meal you 5. You can turn around and do 4 meals with that hamburger meal. That chicken, you can do 4 meals with. If you can turn around and have enough, you get that pork chop, you can get that roast, and all. You can turn around and spread it out. It'll turn around and work for the whole month and spend it right versus for the week.
Point is, there is something you can do about it. So where there are ways that you can look at this list, 'cause this is a roadmap, it's showing you where you're spending your money, and it's up to you to decide, okay, where can I decrease these expenses? And that groceries is one of them. We'll talk about that in the class that I do too. Credit card, $150 a month.
You ain't got that.
Pay it off and stop.
Why do you pay your credit card off, like, I'm gonna say credit card off, like, I've done self-lender before, but I finished. My credit score went down.
Because you pay credit, because you pay more.
Do not close
You
them
don't
down.
close them out. And
Yeah, I finished.
Yeah.
I understand it.
when I paid my student loan off, my credit score went down.
Yeah, I understand.
And car too. So you keep a credit card with a low balance. That's what you do.
Yeah, I have that too, but you get to your 12 months, you finish.
You feel like you're doing something by paying it out.
Yeah, like
No,
I'm finished, so
because
I think that's from
one of the things that they look at is,
Maybe it's gonna be in your next session.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you can ask those questions in your next.
thank you,
Okay.
same here. Okay, so we have talked about spending and, income and expenses, and I think we talked.
gas is a factor. Now, I used to, when I had my girls, divorced, I lived on the east side. And I would tell them like today, where do you people need to go? You'll start on the west side, and if you miss a spot coming back home, then you're out of there. You know what I'm saying? I can pay them to do it. Then figure out where you need to go, write it all down. 18 miles to the alley. We're gonna start at Mary Black Hospital over here. We're gonna work our way over there. And if y'all happen to miss one, oh my God, I passed by. Might need to turn around.
So what are you saying? You're saving money on your gas? So what are you saying? Chill back.
I'm not really taking more. I can't do this.
Yeah, save it on there.
One girl down, the other one, somewhere out there trying to
Okay, I think what you're talking about is saving on gas. And I talked about that in one of my classes too. And this is what I say. We get paid bi-weekly every 2 weeks. So on payday, I fill up my tank. And I say to myself, this gas is going to last me until next payday. So I don't do the running around either. On weekends, you don't see me here and there and everywhere.
I would stick an extra, say 20, up in the top of the, where the windows are there, just in case. But that was in the case, but nobody knew what I did.
In case
Because it's also gas, it's wear and tear. And some people don't realize how.
This, one thing about the budget
Oh, you mean on this, yeah, this is just, this is not, this whole expense report is not necessarily realistic. It's just something that we put together just to show you where you might be able to cut some of your expenses, basically. So, make adjustments on your budget. When it's not working out, you're not having enough money at the end of the month or whatever, make adjustments, and this little sheet just shows you there are places that you can make adjustments. If something costs more, then you're gonna have to take away from that cell phone bill so that you have more money for your medicine or whatever. Okay? We gotta take care of those needs first, and then your wants. Well, obligations and then your wants. Okay. I don't think we're going to, I plan to do budget with you, but I don't think we're gonna have time to do that. But I wanna leave you with this. We get better when we know better, and when we know better, we do better. And every day is an opportunity to improve.
I think budgets that are not set, like you can't set a budget completely, you always have to be flexible because you can add some this way and subtract some over here. You know, and make it fit in that particular goal.
That's why we have rerouting.
Yeah, there you go.
That's why we have rerouting. Make it work.
I reroute my tax bill, all these people that did that, because they don't like to pay TV, so they're how I scared you $30, like, look, they still, oh, the charge, I don't care.
That's all I have for you today. Thank you for your participation, and I enjoyed it.
So now we'll be taking a break. The restrooms are in the back. And don't worry about the slides. We will have those emailed to you so you can have them and access them anytime. Okay, so we'll be back here at 10:30 to talk about credits.